let's talk about football. One of the hardest hitting sports on the planet. But while you're locked into the big sacks, the one-handed catches, the no-look throws, there's an entirely other game happening on the field that you're not even aware of. And that is the mental game. Every snap is a chess match. Not just between the coaches and the play calling, but in the minds of the players with every play.
I'll play better when you hit me, 52.
Before the ball is even snapped, decisions are being made, attention is being directed, confidence is either building or crashing. That is the mental game. So in this video, we're going to look at a few of the moments from this season's playoffs and view them from the lens of a mental performance coach. The four situations from these playoffs that we're going to break down are these. We're going to be looking at the misses from Brandon McManus. We're going to be looking at the muffed punts from the Seahawks and the Rams game. We'll also be dissecting the composure and the comeback abilities of the Bears and the Rams respectively in the insane divisional round. What is exactly happening in the minds of these players in these moments? They're utilizing mental skills so that they can get the best out of themselves. The four mental skills that we're going to be looking at are the following: routines, arousal regulation, self-efficacy, and lastly, attention. And more importantly, I'm going to tell you exactly what to look for when you're watching the Super Bowl. That way, you can watch the mental game unfold as you watch the game. Because once you start seeing the mental game of football, you're never going to look at the game the same way again. Hi, my name is Lukin Center. I'm a mental performance coach working at the Lukin Center. I work with athletes and high performers in all fields on the mental side of the game. I have my background in sport and exercise psychology. And when I work with athletes, we help them train these abstract skills like confidence, self-belief, attention. And we gamify the process so that they can win the mental game and train what others overlook. Because when it comes to sports and performance, you can have all the physical capabilities and athleticism in the world, but the mind always sets the standard. If you're mentally not in the game, you won't be able to perform under pressure. And that's where myself and mental performance coaches come into play. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first mental skill we're going to look at is arousal regulation. One of the big concepts of sports psychology is learning to utilize the mind-body connection to perform under pressure. So when it comes to arousal, what that word means is activation of your mind and body. So what does activation of the mind and body look like? We can view it on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being very low activation and 10 being incredibly high. At 0, this is what the mind is feeling: lazy, unmotivated, lethargic. A 10 is the complete opposite of a 0. Instead of being lazy, you're hyped up, you're activated. Instead of being lethargic, you're animated, full of energy. Instead of checked out, you're wired. Your body reflects this as well. Your heart rate's going to be up. Your respiration rate's going to go up, so you're breathing a lot. You're probably going to be sweating. And these are the two opposite ends of arousal. So now that you understand arousal, what exactly does this have to do with performance? And that's where we need to look at something called the inverted U theory. Now, the inverted U theory essentially looks at the relationship between arousal or activation and performance. The inverted U theory essentially says that when you're at a complete 0 or at a complete 10, performance is going to dip. Most individuals have a sweet spot in the middle where performance is at its best. When it comes to sports like football, momentum dictates a lot of things, one of which is your arousal level. The best athletes and the best teams find a way to control their arousal. To see this in action, we're going to watch some clips from the Rams and the Bears game. So if we go through the film, we see Caleb Williams throwing the touchdown, Cole Kmet catches it, and if we divert to the fans, we see that they're going absolutely berserk. Instead of getting overactivated because of this big play and getting out of their zone, you can see that Cole Kmet, right after the play, stays calm, doesn't let the moment get to him. We see that the players, they're just walking calmly off the field, and they're letting the special teams come on, staying calm and collected, just to kick the field goal, because again, the job's not finished. They still have to tie it to go to overtime. This is a great example of a well-coached team that does not let external situations dictate their activation levels. They stay level-headed and disciplined. Now that you understand how arousal regulation works and seen a few examples, what can you look out for in the Super Bowl to see this at play? Look for big momentum shifts and how teams and players respond to it. This would include turnovers, lead changes. This could also mean penalties as well. A high arousal may look like a team having a lot of holds, a lot of penalties. Maybe they're jumping off sides a little bit more. They're being more physical with the opposing team and having pass interference penalties. On the opposing side, to know if a team is a little bit too complacent and lower in arousal, see if the defense is giving up big chunk plays. Are they having mental errors? Are they not making tackles that they need to be? The offensive line might be missing blocks. The best players and the best teams know where their zone is, and they utilize mental skills to regulate themselves back into their zone. The mental skill we're going to be looking at now is routines. Now, routines is a word we hear often. Morning routines, nighttime routines, and in sports, routines play a factor as well. But what exactly are routines? Routines are a systematic and consistent sequence of task-relevant thoughts and actions that are performed by the individual. These routines are done so that mentally and physically you're setting yourself up to be in your zone. And athletes utilize routines to their advantage. If you watch a lot of football games, you know that kickers have a very specific routine before all of their kicks. And this routine is something that they've ironed out throughout their career. And the routine doesn't just include the kicker, it includes the long snapper and the holder all working in unison in a nice unified dance so that they can perform that kick on a consistent basis. If you can throw this kicking team off their routine, the chances of them missing their kick goes up exponentially. And coaches of the opposing team know this, and they do what's been commonly referred to in football is ice the kicker. Icing the kicker is essentially this. Once the kicking team gets onto the field and gets set up to kick the field goal, right before they snap the ball, the opposing team will call a timeout and have the kicking team try the field goal again. This is a strategic mental play. What they're trying to do is throw the rhythm of the play off and have them do it again and again. In the case of Brandon McManus, Bears coach Ben Johnson successfully iced the kicker by breaking this routine. Oftentimes in the Super Bowl and big games, a win or loss comes down to a point or two. When you're watching the Super Bowl, here's what to look for. If it's near the end of the first half and the opposing team still has a few timeouts left, just like in the Brandon McManus situation, see if they call a timeout. If they do that, what's happening is that the coach is trying to mess with the kicker's routine. Hey, before we get back to the video, I want to take a quick moment and tell you more about the Lukin Center Sport and Performance Program. In partnership with the Super Football Conference, we wanted to develop this program to help athletes build on their mental game. What makes our program unique is that we're not just focusing on athletes, but the entire athlete ecosystem. Whether you're a coach, an athletic director, or a parent, we can set you up with workshops and one-on-one coaching so that your athlete or team can work on their mental game. And because the mind sets a standard, we want to help you get the most out of your physical abilities by also training the mind just like you train the body. If you're interested in learning more about the Lukin Center Sport and Performance Program, visit the link in the bio below and you'll see all the therapists that can help you out. On our website, you'll see a full menu of all of our options, all of which are customizable to your needs. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. And with that being said, let's get back to the video. Let's talk about attention. When it comes to sports and in life, many things are out of your control. The best athletes in the world have learned to accept things that are out of their control and divert their attention to what is in their control. If you can control your attention, you increase the likelihood of executing the task properly. To understand attention a little bit better, we're going to break down, I don't want to mess up the name. It differs attentional model. When we're looking at attention, we can think in two dimensions. The first is the direction of our focus. The direction of our focus can either be external or internal. The next is the width of our focus or attention. The width can either be broad or it can be narrow. So let's break this down in football terms. Let's say you're a quarterback. An external broad focus by a quarterback might be him pre-snap looking at the defense and seeing what the play scheme might be that the defense is throwing at them. His focus is not in his mind, rather it's external to him, and it's looking at the big picture at play. An external narrow focus might be a quarterback, once they've snapped the ball, going from one receiver to the next and going through their reads. Their focus is narrowed in on one receiver to see if they're open, and if they're not, that narrow focus goes to the next receiver, the next receiver. Shifting our focus to internal, this is not looking outside, but now we're going to go into the mind. This might be the quarterback going through their minds, thinking about the play that's been called and seeing how it lines up against the defense and strategically planning if they need to call an audible, right? They take external broad input go internal and broadly think about the big picture. What is the series of plays that they want to take so that they can go and score a touchdown? This is broad. It's big picture still, but this time it's inside the mind. A narrow internal focus might be a quarterback right before they take the snap, drawing their attention inward and saying, breathe. They're bringing their focus to just one cue internally. As we talked about, in sports and in life, there's going to be many things that are out of your control. The crowd will get in the way, the refs will have a bad call, and it's going to shift your attention from one to the other to the other. An athlete who's mentally skilled know how to bring their attention back. To see how issues with attention can lead to a deficit in performance, we're going to look at the 2 muffed punts by Xavier Smith in the Rams and Seahawks divisional round game. If we turn our attention to the film, we'll see that this first punt happening in the second quarter with 9 minutes and 32 seconds left. Now this was the first punt of the game and Xavier Smith fumbled it. We can assume that when he goes to return a punt again, this is going to be in the back of his mind. We recognize that attention played a role in this by something that number 83, the gunner, and number 4, the Seahawks punter, had to say about this play. In an interview, we saw that Young, number 83, mentioned that while he was running up to Xavier Smith, he saw that his eyes weren't on the ball. His eyes were on the opposing team running to him. And because his attention wasn't on executing the task, which was to catch the ball, it resulted in that fumble. The first time around, he got lucky, but we can assume he was in his head for the next punt and then the third punt as well. Dixon also predicted that because Xavier Smith had a fumble, there's a chance that he's going to drop it again. He's not a fortune teller. They knew that because his attention was not on the ball but rather on the players rushing at him, that might happen again. The punter took advantage of this and kicked the ball high and far with a big arc, launching the ball 55 yards with the hang time of about 5.3 seconds. To put that into context, the average punt goes for about 45 to 47 yards with an average hang time for about 4 seconds. It left enough time for Young to get right into the face of Xavier Smith. Because it was high, Xavier Smith was trying to track the ball and backtracking because he wasn't expecting it to go that far. He tripped himself up, fell, and this time around, Young was in the right position to make a play. The Seahawks were set up with great field position, and they scored a touchdown on the next play. Here's what to look for in the Super Bowl. One of the easiest ways to see attention at play, right before a quarterback snaps the ball, watch them read the defense. If you see them calling an audible, if you hear the words, kill, kill, what they've done is they've gone from a broad external, studying the defense, and then moved it to internal, broad, and changed the play that they're calling. They've seen what the defense is giving them, and internally they've changed their strategy, and they've changed the offensive play call. The next skill we're going to look at is belief. Belief, or in sports psychology, what's called self-efficacy, is a skill that can be trained. When it comes to belief in our abilities to complete a task, sports psychology calls this self-efficacy. And a psychologist by the name of Albert Bandura broke down how you can build self-efficacy to improve performance, and there's 4 main ways where you can increase your self-efficacy. We're going to focus on just one of those. It's called mastery experiences. Essentially, a mastery experience is, if you have done it before, you can do it again. And this was in clear display in the Bears and Rams game, where both teams have a history of comeback wins. In the 2025 season, the Chicago Bears set an NFL record for the most comeback wins in the final 2 minutes of the game, with 6 in the regular season and 1 in the playoffs, and almost pulling off yet another one in the divisional round, which would have put them at 8 comeback wins. On the other hand, Matthew Stafford in his Hall of Fame career is in the top 5 of QBs with comeback wins. He's done it countless times with the Lions, and on a Super Bowl run, he had multiple playoff games and the Super Bowl come down to a comeback win. Both teams in these moments had a high level of self-efficacy, and you could see that in their play. Teams that have self-efficacy in their belief in these high-pressure moments, they don't make as many mistakes. They stay disciplined. They do the task, or as Bill Belichick talks about, they do their job. Teams that don't have this belief, they try to force miracles. They try to force big plays. They play football that isn't disciplined, and this undisciplined football oftentimes leads to them losing. Now that we've broken down how self-efficacy is built and tied to performance, what can you look for in the Super Bowl? In the Super Bowl, the 2 quarterbacks we have never been here before. This is going to be a very interesting thing to see how they react to high-pressure moments. Are they being good leaders and communicating efficiently where it looks like it's a well-oiled machine? Chances are they have a high level of self-efficacy and belief in themselves. If you're seeing issues with communication, breakdown in plays, a lot of penalties, mental errors, missed blocks, this will give you a possible insight that their self-efficacy might be low. Football is one of the most athletic and physical games on the planet. It can be easy to be a viewer, whether it's your first time watching or it's your 100th game, to only be wrapped up in the physical side of play. If you're interested in learning more about the chess game happening in the background and stepping into the minds of the players, you need to understand the mental game. Before you go, comment down below your prediction for the Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to win? For us, we're going to guess the Seahawks are going to pull away with the win, 24-14. If you want to learn more about mental health, but also the mental side of sports, make sure to subscribe and follow. Comment down below if you have other questions. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the Super Bowl.